Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CBT podcast. Ethan's here, Rod's here, I'm here. I'm going to take a moment to thank you for the recent support. If you like what you see in this video, drop a like and subscribe, as it really helps us out. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about a team that not really sure how they're going to finish because we've never seen them play together, and that is the Los Angeles Clippers. For me, the biggest question mark surrounding this team is at the point guard position with their recent signing, John Wall, who they picked up for 2 years and $20 million. The last year he played on the Rockets, he averaged 21 points and 7 assists and averaged 1.1 steals and 0.8 blocks a game. So that was obviously good, but that was in 2019-2020 season. So we haven't seen him for a while. Ethan, how do you think the Clippers are going to be?
Oh, I definitely see the Clippers doing way better than they have in the previous years. I think Paul George is going to come back healthier than ever. I think Kawhi Leonard is going to be healthier than ever. And then on top of that, like you said before, John Wall I think he's going to be really solid for them, especially because he was averaging 20 points per game in like the 40-something games that he's played with the Rockets before they just sat him down and just kept him out because they want to develop their young players. So I think now that he's on a championship team and where he's going to basically be like facilitating, but he can also go in and attack. I just think that it's going to help space out the floor for PG and Kawhi Leonard. And on top of that, already having Norman Powell it's just going to be a great season for them overall.
Do you think we'll see flashes of Wizards John Wall?
I think we will see bits and pieces of it just because he's been sitting all this time. So I believe he's going to be the healthiest he's been in a long time. So I don't think we're going to have any type of injury problems with him. I think it's just going to be a little bit rusty coming out the gates, but then eventually he's going to grow into that kind of lesser of a John Wall from the Wizards, but every now and then you'll see like a couple games he'll have like 25, 28. I think he's going to be solid.
Okay, and Rob, what do you think?
To build off that, I think John Wall, he's basically just been resting for the past year and a half. I don't think we've ever seen him basically since his rookie season be at a healthier point than he is right now. He will come into the season at 100%. I don't know how long he'll last, but we have never seen John Wall with the level of talent he is going to have around him in Los Angeles. We know him for creating a play out of nothing, but now he will be able to use his extreme playmaking talents to benefit the superstars around him. But I do want to talk about something that you rarely see in these so-called super teams, which is depth. I believe that the Los Angeles Clippers are the deepest team in the NBA by a mile. I think the Celtics are up there, but let me break it down for you. Out of all of their role players that could have signed somewhere else, Amir Coffey, Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, Zubac, Terrence Mann. The only player they lost is Isaiah Hartenstein, and they do need a backup center. But all of those players I named could be getting 25 plus minutes anywhere else in the NBA. But they all chose to come back to Los Angeles. What does that mean? It means they believe that if they take a lesser role and they come back, they have a real chance to win a championship. So what do you guys think about the importance of the depth and what it will mean to the Clippers this season?
Obviously depth is important for any team. To win a championship, you need to have that fallback, I suppose you could say, of resting your star guys and not taking that many steps down from when they're on the court. So I think the depth's a big thing. And also something is Tyronn Lue is a coach that has won an NBA finals in the past. So he knows what it takes. He's had the experience of working with great players like LeBron. Now he's got Kawhi and PG. He knows how to cater to those superstars. And I think it's all just lining up really well for the Clippers.
No, definitely. I definitely agree with what Rod said regarding the depth of this team. Nick Batum, he's solid, but like the rest of their bench players and their role players I think I do agree with you about they are the deepest team. What they are missing is definitely a center on that backup position. I don't really know of any good centers that are really left in free agency. Maybe you guys can tell me.
Daniel Tice might get bought out. He's a reliable backup center. It's something. It's better than what they currently have.
That I do agree. But also another thing you have to look at regarding their roster is the amount of forwards they have. I think they do need and I know Reggie Jackson's a solid pickup for them, but seeing how he's been declining a lot recently and like over these years, I do think that maybe some type of point guard trade would help them out a lot. Maybe that's exactly why they brought in Paul George, because they realized like Reggie's not cutting it for them. So I do think that maybe some type of trade regarding Reggie Jackson would be good and better for them long run. But I mean, overall they're a solid team.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the backup centers I've seen. I mean, the main one is Boogie because he did play a stint with the Clippers earlier and he looked pretty well with them. But I think between guys like Robert Covington and Nick Batum, when Zubac isn't on the floor, I think they're perfectly comfortable going to a small ball lineup because if you've got guys like Covington, Batum, Paul George, and Kawhi on the court together, defense is not a concern. You can switch everything and guard whoever you need to guard. Another thing I want to talk about earlier, I talked about the lower tier guys, the Amir Coffees, the Terrence Manns, the guys that they brought back on a rainy day when a star is out. But now I want to talk about that second tier of players. You already mentioned Reggie Jackson. I think it's been a difficult spot for Reggie. We saw him show up big in the playoffs 2 years ago when Kawhi first went down. We know he's not a starting point guard. He's extremely inefficient. He's not a good playmaker. But now coming off the bench to John Wall, I think we'll see a much more efficient, controlled Reggie Jackson. I think a guy like Marcus Morris off the bench, he's been a 15-point scorer his whole career, extremely reliable with the Clippers. If Kawhi or PG needs to sit a game out, you can plug him in and not see much of a drop off offensively at all. And then a guy I know very well, one of my favorite players, Norman Powell. Let me tell y'all a bit about Norman Powell if you've been tuned out. The past 2 years, he's basically been a 20-point scorer. He was a 20-point scorer on the Raptors before he got traded to Portland. In Portland, he did not see a lot of opportunity besides Dame, but he was still very efficient. And then last season, he was a 19-point scorer. And with the Clippers, he averaged over 20. That was a very small sample size, but I can definitely see a world if minor injuries happen to Paul George, Kawhi, or John Wall, where Norman Powell may very well lead this team in total points by the end of the season just because he's so reliable and consistent as a scorer. And when you have a guy like that as your fourth option, I do not think I've ever seen a so-called super team that has this many guys at the second tier. These are basically role players who could be huge for the Clippers down the stretch. What do y'all think about that?
Wait,
I
wait.
think
Did you just say that Norman Powell's going to average the most points per game in this team?
No. I'm saying by the end of the
Total
season,
points.
he could lead the team in total points scored if
Oh,
Kawhi or
okay,
PG or
okay.
John Wall miss enough games.
Okay.
I think the best point you made in that is the Reggie Jackson point. Being able to come off the bench behind John Wall is such a luxury for a guy who we've seen. He has the capability to have a 50, 40, 90 season. It's not likely, especially after seeing what his efficiency was last season. But I think being behind John Wall, and doesn't have as much pressure on him anymore. So he might be playing more free and just better in general, like you said. And the thing you didn't even mention about Norman Powell, sure, he's a 20-point scorer, but he's an efficient 20-point scorer as well. Last season, his splits were 46, 42, and 84. So he's a knockdown three-point shooter. He's still efficient from inside the arc. Norman Powell's a great scorer, and as you said, maybe one of the best fourth options we've ever seen on a team.
Yeah. And the last point I wanted to make, I talked about their third tier guys. I talked about their second tier guys. But when we talk about the upper echelon of the Los Angeles Clippers, we have already seen them get it done in very small sample sizes. In the bubble, they let the world down. They choked the 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. But I still believe to this day, they would have taken the Lakers to school and then dog walked the Heat in the finals if they did not let Jamal Murray sun them in the second round of that playoffs. And then, obviously, we all know Kawhi went down against the Jazz. They still took the Suns to 6 games. I don't think I'm in the minority when I say they would have went to the finals that year. So we have a disappointing playoff performance and we have an injury. So I think as long as this Clippers team stay healthy, I think Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs is the best player in the NBA without a shadow of a doubt. Paul George, I think he's cleared the playoff P demons. And all we need to see is a controlled, healthy John Wall. And I think I've said this before to y'all, I think the Clippers are the favorites to win it all come playoff time.
Not to like rain on your tier parade, but I would say that I think Terrence Mann is in that second tier. I think you're just hating on him because I mean he was drafted in 2019. So I think there has been improvement with him, especially like he's had a much bigger role. But now that he's going, I believe that personally he's gonna be amazing for them off the bench. And he's gonna be averaging around like the same as Marcus Morris with like 15 points per game. And every now and then he'll have like a 21, 22 point game. But I think he's gonna be great for them as well. Just wanted to put that there.
Yeah, talking about the team as a whole, like you said, I agree, Rod. I actually do think the Clippers could be the favorites as well, but only to win the West. They will win the West. The roster is perfectly constructed. Everything is lining up perfectly. They have Kawhi, who, as you said, we have talked about him being the best player in the world, especially after that 2019 playoffs run. And we haven't really seen a deep one from him since. So I think he'll come back energized. PG, as you said, he's MVP caliber player at his peak. He's in the conversation. So this Clippers team is good enough to win a very good West. And they will end up playing the Boston Celtics in the finals, only to lose in 7 games. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I'm going to ask that you please drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment. How far do you think the Clippers will go? Is Kawhi going to look like old Kawhi? Where's Victor Wembanyama going to get drafted? Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.